Hello, and welcome to our monthly webinar series. My name is Melanie Estevez. This month, we're going to be covering Word 2016. I'm going to be taking you through some features and benefits that you might not be aware of, including some intelligence features to help improve your grammar and writing. We'll also be looking at embedded browsing to make your research faster. We'll also be looking at the navigation pane and ways that you can customize Word to make it work better for you. So with this in mind, let's jump into a demo where I can show you some of these features and benefits. So one of the first features we're going to talk about is the navigation pane. Now this feature's actually been around since the last update of Word, but I've noticed a lot of people don't really work with it. So there are a few ways that you can bring up and have the navigation pane showing. But actually with that in mind, I'm going to actually show you a new feature called the Tell Me What to Do field, which is actually across all of Microsoft products now. And it's great. So it sort of combines a find, your help field all at the same time. So I can start typing in navigation and it will give me both. It will bring up help files potentially on navigation, but it will also give me tasks or steps to get right to it. So you'll see here, I have the option to go open the navigation pane. So I don't have to read about it. I can just go right to it. Now, the disadvantage about this pane is that then you don't ever learn where exactly some of these features are. But again, from a speed perspective, getting on the go, this definitely gets you going much quicker. So I'm going to click on that. And you'll see here, I all of a sudden get this navigation pane on the left-hand side. So I can make it bigger and smaller. Just for you to know as well, I could go up here, but down at the bottom where you have page 1 of 5, I can also click here, and this will also give me the navigation pane. So let's talk a little bit about it. So it sort of combines a little bit of a view your document where I can go through pages, and you'll see here it gives me a bit of a summary, and if you had a very long extensive document, you could see and sort of sort through all your pages really quickly. You can also do a quick search. So say you needed to find a certain word to make a correction or something, you could type in this in the results, and it will, similar to I think past features of Word where you could go and search and find. What I love about this as well is that it will actually here on the pane will show you what the search is about. So you don't necessarily have to go into the document and read about it. If there was a particular one that you're looking for, you can sort of quickly look through this list. I also love the fact that we also have this new feature called headings. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where headings can definitely come in handy when you're dealing with larger documents. So in sort of summary, basically you create a heading with content underneath it, and you're using the styles that you see along the top here. So I'll give you an example here. So you see where it says appendix, sample expansion. So it's basically copied this information. So I've highlighted this and gone along the top here to the different styles, and I've chosen heading. So your different headings will give us different styles. Heading 1 will bring it over to the right. Heading 2 will make it look like this. So I'm just going to click that. So you'll see that it shows up here on the left hand on the navigation pane. Now you'll see that it's indented because it's considering itself like a subtitle. So you can actually right click and you can promote and demote stuff so that it also indents. So I'm going to promote it so that it actually pushes itself forward. And in this case, the style is pushing it all the way to the right hand side. But we can correct this up here on the margins if we don't like that. But what's neat about it is, so now that it actually classifies that particular piece of content as a heading, we can create table of contents. We can quickly, you can see I can collapse it and sort through it. And what's neat about it is not only can I collapse it on the navigation pane, I can actually collapse it within the document. So if you'll see here, I'm going here to all the headings and I'm collapsing them. So say you had a very, very large document but you didn't want to view it all at the same time. by taking some time and sort of setting up your document with these headings, you could very easily collapse them so that if you sent it to someone, they could just open up the particular area. Or what's cool about it as well is once things are sort of in its own grouping, you can actually quickly move the whole thing around. So I just grabbed and dragged and dropped that information. So I'm grabbing number 4 and I'm just going to grab and drag and drop it and make it number 2. And you'll see that the same the content itself within each of the heading sections moved with it. So again, if you were dealing with a large extensive document and you knew potentially there was going to be changes, this would be a great way to save yourself some time and effort in the future. But again, I have to say, working with this sort of navigation pane and actually setting up all these headings as headings within can be a bit tricky because you basically have to work with this style sheets along the top. But you can go in and can customize it accordingly. But I would say it was a little tricky at first, but once I sort of got the hang of it, as you see here, there's some weird indenting going on and stuff. But once I kind of got the hang of it, I do see that especially, like I said, document, a report, something that you potentially were going to use, or a larger document, spending the time and actually setting it all up in the navigation pane, I think in the long run would definitely help you. The next feature we're going to talk about is the quick access toolbar. You'll see mine is here below the ribbon, but you also have the option to have it above. So all you have to do is right click on it and you'll have the option where you say show quick access toolbar above the ribbon, and you'll see it's up here along the top, which I've noticed some people, the default seems to place it up here. My preference is to put it below because it being quick access, I find it easier for me to access it when it's down here along the bottom. Now this is, I find, something that people really underutilize, partially because I think that they don't really know how to use it. Because again, the default that Microsoft gives you really is only a couple things like save, I think undo. But what's neat about it is that you can actually go in here and it gives you the option very quickly to pick some additional ones that are sort of more popular, like email or quick print or but what's neat about it, you can actually go to more commands. And so in here, you'll see that you can actually customize this quick access toolbar. So you'll see there's this long list of various sort of options. If you say you do a lot of text, working with text and highlighting and that kind of thing, you can sort of definitely make sense to move some of those over. Say you're doing a lot of sort of maybe font work or numbering, you should add that as well. And what's neat as well, then you can also decide the order that it shows up on this list. Now, something as well is I think people don't realize is this actually is just popular commands. If you choose from this list all commands, you'll see that there's this very long, extensive list of tools and functions that some of them are only accessible this way. You actually cannot find them in any of the tabs of Word, which I find a little peculiar, but and I'm still myself sort of discovering what's possible with some of these commands. Like I said, because some of them are sort of hidden, but anything from adjusting brightness. Now, one I found was great was a calculate, so if you had to do a quick calculation of adding, I found that under this all command and I added that to my list. I also found one called insert file path. So I found that sometimes in some of the documents, it's always referencing what the document is or where I can find it for other people. So I found how to, instead of having to type in like /document/ what the name of the file was, by clicking that button, it just really quickly could add that to the footer or the header, depending on what the format for the client was. So I thought that was a great sort of feature, but really, as you see, the list is incredibly long. There are features in here. Like I said, I'm just still discovering what's possible here. But yeah, whatever you choose from this, if you move over, you'll see on this list, and I'm going to click OK, and you'll see it now appearing along the list on the top, which is great. The next feature we're going to talk about is some of the open screen options. Now, most people would go to the open screen probably by clicking File and then going to Open, which is fine. You can definitely get there that way. But if you set up your quick access toolbar, you can actually have an icon here that will take you straight to that screen. Now you'll see here that Microsoft, in all its applications, Excel, PowerPoint, will show you your most recently used documents here. Now, did you know that you can actually change the amount of documents shown in this list? Now, the default, I think, is 25, but you can change it up to 50. Now, that can be, a lot more advantageous if you had, more documents that you can quickly access versus having, again, to go search for them or put them on your desktop, that kind of thing. So I'm going to click on Options, and it's going to bring up a pop-up box, and I'm just going to go to Advanced. And now it has a bunch of different features, so I'm just going to scroll down till I get to Display, which you'll see here, Display. And the first line says, show this number of recent documents. So you'll see that I've already changed mine to 50, but you could change it to whatever number that you would like, up to a maximum of 50. And I'm going to click OK. Now to get back to the open screen, I'm going to click on my icon here to open. I should also mention you also have shortcut keys that could also, again, if you want to save on time and energy, learning some of the shortcut keys will definitely move you along through the application much faster. Now, as I was talking before, Microsoft will show you the most recent documents based on time, but you'll notice here that I have some that are pinned to the top. Now, again, this is great if they're documents or templates that you use on a regular basis. I notice a lot of people who save these types of documents on their desktop because they want to access them faster. This basically is a much better way of doing that same thing. So I could go to any of my documents here that I've recently opened, and when I highlight it slightly, you'll see that we get a little pin here that shows up. So if I click on it, you'll see that that document is now pinned along the top. And if I decide that I no longer want it pinned, I can just click on the pin again and it will unpin it and put it back in sort of the sequence based on time. Another option here in the open screen that I notice folks don't take advantage of is the ability to open a copy. So I've noticed people, they'll make changes to a document and then they have to save it, and they'll save it with their own name and title. What's great is the fact that you have no risk of altering the actual master file by actually creating it from a copy. So I could go here and basically take whatever document I'd like, and I'm going to right click on it, and you'll see I have the option to open a copy. So you'll see that Word has created a copy of my document, but it has not transferred over the actual file name. It's kept it sort of plain as sort of document 3 or whatever the sequence will be. And this ensures that, we don't have any mistakes of files being saved over your master document. So you can go in and save as and change it to whatever you'd like, but it's just an additional feature to make sure that there's no confusion between your master document and any copies that you might create. The next feature we're going to talk about is images and paragraphs. So with images, I often see people wanting to add images to, improve the look of a report or newsletters, but they also have noticed the images tend to, be on one side or the text is at the top or the bottom, and they don't realize the fact that Word has a lot of features to make their images look a lot better. So let's take a look at how we can do that. So I'm just going to insert an image. It's working on it. Here we go. Now I'm going to click this with these people. Now you'll see here that it's very large, so Word automatically popped it onto the next page because it was a little bit too big for the first page. But now that I make it a bit smaller, you'll see that right now it's sort of all the text is to one side, but it actually gives me the option here to play with the layout. So I'm going to click on this icon, and you'll see I have the option to either have the text stuck up along the side, go through the image, go behind the image. So in my case, I'm going to have it go square or tight, which means that the text should fall right alongside of it. And in this case, because the image is justified to the left, all the text will fall along on the side. So I can actually change the alignment of the image to the other side. So if I click on it and go along the top here on a line to the right, you'll see that now the image is now moved over to the right side. So I'm going to go back and put it back to the left side. Now you'll also see that this image has this big chunk of white space that really isn't really adding much. So we can actually get rid of that. So I can click on it and click on crop, and you'll see that I'll have the option here to actually cut away all this extra white space. Oh, but now I have my images sort of off to the side, so I can actually move my image closer back to the side, And because now we have more white space, or more of the image and less of the white space, we can actually make it bigger so we can focus on the people. Another option is we can actually improve the quality of the image. So say, for example, you've added these images of your employees and they're kind of fuzzy. You can select the image and you'll see here under corrections, you can make the image sharper. You can also make it brighter or darker depending on the quality of the image. Or say, for example, you have a bunch of different sort of colored photographs and you want to unify them, you could make them all black and white so that your document has a sort of clean, professional look. So those are just, and we also see up here, there's a bunch of other sort of features. Again, if you really want to sort of up your graphic factor, but my caution is some of these additional features for your images does sort of make your image, you'll see here, it adds a lot of shadow, and this may or may not look good in a particular report or newsletter template. So just something to keep in mind that sometimes with these images, simple is better. But you can play around, like I mentioned, with the alignment to the left and to the right, as well as how the content moves around it. So the next feature we're going to work with is helping your paragraphs and your content flow better across your pages. Now, most people are aware of the fact that with Word, as you add more content, information sort of gets pushed down, and Word will automatically add new pages as required. Now, but they may not be aware of the fact that you can kind of control how this content flows from page to page. Say, for example, you had a newsletter or report where you didn't want the content from page 1 to automatically flow onto page 2. So you could sort of either set up some text boxes, or you can set up some page breaks that tells Word, no, this paragraph, I don't want you splitting it up. If it gets moved for whatever reason, I want the whole paragraph to move together. Here's how you do that. I'm just going to take this paragraph here. You'll see history. If I click on it right now, or actually we'll just go here to definition, history, and research. You'll see as I click, it's going to move things down sort of in chunks based on the sentences. Now I'm going to bring it back to where it was. And this time around, I'm going to highlight it and I'm right click and I'm going to go to paragraph. And then I have the option to keep lines together. So when I check that box and go OK, now when I actually go along the top and press enter, you'll notice that the whole paragraph moved at the same time. Now this first one, the first header didn't because it's on its own line. But you can actually go in there and set that up as well. So I'm going to go to paragraph and it'll say keep with next. And I'm going to click OK. And then you'll notice as I bring it back, the whole paragraph and the header will move together this time. So you do have the option to have a lot more control of your content moving up and down your document. Another area of paragraph and font control that people are not aware of is that you can control the spacing not only of the lines, but of the spacing between your bullets and your indentations. Now, Word will provide you with a default, but you can actually tweak that. So I'm going to go in here and highlight some of this content, and I'm going to go here to line and paragraph spacing. Now you'll see that there's some presets here in terms of 1, 1.5. You'll see that's maybe a little bit too much, but I can actually go in here and go line spacing options. You'll see here I have lots of options in terms of the alignment, how much spacing or indentation there is from the left side of the page, as well as how much spacing there is between each of the lines, both each of the lines within the particular paragraph or between each of your hard return buttons. The next area I wanted to show you was some new features that Word has included under a new tab called References. Let's go there now. So along the top, when I click References, you'll see there's some new features that weren't there before in previous versions. One of these features is Table of Contents. I love the ability to create a table of contents automatically based on the information already in my document. As I had mentioned earlier, if you spend a bit of time working on your navigation pane, this will make your life much easier, and one of the examples of this is the table of contents. So before I create my table of contents, I'm just going to add a page just to make it easier for me to put my table of contents in. So I'm just going to go to Insert, Blank Page, and you'll see now I have an additional page here at the front. And I'm going to go back to References, and under the drop-down menu for table of contents, you'll see I have the option to either create an automatic table or a manual table. The manual table will require you to manually input all the headlines and numbers for the actual table of contents. The automatic table will take this information from your navigation pane, and as you make changes in the document, it will make changes in the table of contents as well, which is great. Let me show you. So when I click automatic, you'll see that it has created a table of contents based on the information in my navigation pane. So if I go into my actual document and make changes, so say for example, I'm going to change the title of this module from self-awareness and control to just self-awareness. And then I'm going to go back up to my table of contents, and I'm going to click update table, and I have the option to either update just the numbers or the entire table, and I'm going to click update the entire table. And then you'll see that the module 2 title has actually been updated as well. So this will apply to any of the content and numbers within the table of content as long as it's correctly outlined here in your navigation pane. Super cool. I also want to talk about some of these other features here. Now, Word has always had the ability to do footnotes, but they've sort of made it a little bit more robust in terms of your ability to add your footnotes along the bottom, multiple footnotes, as well as manage them. So say that you had to actually jump through your document and check on all these various footnotes, you're able to sort of quickly jump back and forward. It also allows you to sort of decide whether you want to see all the notes or not see them. Another feature I thought was great is the lookup option. So say that there is a word in here that you don't really know what it means. So I'm going to say plasticity, and I'm going to click Smart Lookup. I can actually find out how to say it, the actual definition of it. I can look up Wikipedia information about it and web information about it. I can also go to the definition of it. So again, an additional great feature if you're working on a document or someone shared a document with you and you're working with it, you don't know it, it just saves you the additional step of having to actually leave Word to get this information. Similar to the Smart Lookup is the Researcher option. This is basically a mini browser where you can do research for information without having to leave Word. So say I wanted to do some research about plasticity. So I can type that in and it can give me my options so that I can actually click, read all about it. I can highlight and copy the information. If I wanted to add a citation, I can sit here and add that information. So it's great that it's made it much easier to sort of add especially again, if you're doing research for a report or an academic paper, really easy to move content, save the citations without having to actually manually do that information. The last tip I wanted to walk you through was the mail merge option that Word has added that's really made it much easier to do mail merges. Let me show you how that's done. So I'm going to start a new document by clicking on my icon for a new blank document. And then I'm going to go along the top to mailings. So you'll see I have the option here to start mail merge. When I click down this option, you'll see I have letters, emails, all this option, but we also have a step-by-step mail merge wizard. By clicking on that, it will actually, you can make this side a bit bigger. It can actually walk you through exactly everything that you need. So I'm going to do a letter and I'm going to click start the document. So it will ask you, do you want to use a template letter? Do you want to create the letter right now? So it does give you, you can create from an existing document and go find it. And then it'll walk you right through, oops, it's not liking my template. But anywho, it will walk you through and get you to get your source document with all your names and how to merge them together. I think this is a really great step because in the past I found this really cumbersome. It was often a very advanced feature. It was very tricky, but I love the fact that they've now sort of created a step-by-step option. As you get better, you can actually sort of skip this wizard and actually just go here along the top and walk yourselves through the actual steps. But when you're first getting started, I love the fact that they've actually incorporated this wizard right into Word. Well, that concludes our demo and our tips for today. I hope that you found the information that we covered today useful. We're always looking for feedback, so if you have any thoughts of how we could make this webinar better, or ideas for future webinars, please let us know. And I do hope that you join us again for our next monthly webinar. Thank you.